Now this year, ECOVACS took their flagship robot mop, the X9 Pro Omni, and replaced almost every part of how it actually cleans your floors. This features a bigger roller, a new self-washing system, and a different edge cleaning system. Now on paper, it's a long list of upgrades, so I'm putting them side by side and answering one single question. If you're deciding between these two right now, which upgrades actually change how it cleans, and which ones are just bigger numbers on a box? Now one quick note before we start, ECOVACS is sponsoring today's video and sent me over the X9S. But the X9 Pro that it's going up against has been running in my house all year long. So I know exactly how the old one holds up. And as always, I'm telling you what I find out in testing these robots. So let's get to it. Now before we talk about what's actually changed, let's look at what didn't change, because it tells you what kind of robot we're actually dealing with today. Both of these are roller-mop Omni robots. That means instead of two spinning pads that drag over your floor, they use a single rotating roller that's constantly being wetted, scrubbed, and scraped clean as it goes. And both dock into an all-in-one station that washes the roller, dries it, empties the dustbin, and refills the water all on its own. So out of the box, the day-to-day is pretty much the same. You fill the clean tank and empty the dirty tank every few days, and you mostly leave it alone. The robot will typically tell you if it needs any extra help, if it gets stuck somewhere, or if it needs you to replace its dust bag. Now the X9 Pro has handled this job in my house for the better part of a year, and the fundamentals are genuinely good. So overall today, we're not looking at is the X9S a good robot? It's whether the X9S changes enough to really matter. So let's go upgrade by upgrade, starting with what ECOVACS changed the most, the actual mopping. So if you only look into one area of the upgrade, this is the one. Because ECOVACS has reworked basically the entire mopping system, not just one part of it. So let me break down what actually changed and what that actually means for your floors. Now the original X9 Pro used a 6.9 inch roller. The X9S bumps this up to a 10.6 inch one. ECOVACS calls this a 50% increase in cleaning width. In plain English, this means a wider roller should cover more floor per pass. So in theory, it needs fewer passes and fewer time to clean the same exact area. But it's not just that the mop is wider. ECOVACS has also bumped up how hard it presses down onto the floor. The X9S is rated at 3,800 pascals of mopping pressure, which is what lets the wider roller actually scrub the floor instead of just gliding over it. A second upgrade is the roller material. The old roller was a nylon velvet hybrid, whereas the X9S switches this out for an upgraded microfiber roller that ECOVACS claims will hold more water, but can also dry faster. You might be saying those two things usually are opposite from each other. So that's something I'm gonna have to test over the coming months to see if it actually does absorb more water and dries faster. That means it should be able to spend more time out on the floor cleaning and less time in the dock drying. And the third item, and this is the part that I think matters the most, is its self-washing. Both of these robots clean the roller somewhat while they mop, which is the whole point of a roller system. But the X9 Pro does this with a standard rinse, so just putting more fresh water on the existing roller. The X9S actually adds pressurized washing. This means high energy pulse jets instead of just flowing water. The claim is that it scrapes dirty water off the roller more aggressively, so you're not just smearing around the same old grime. It's the difference between a roller that looks clean and one that's clean mid-job. And finally, the X9S adds a double effect cleaning solution system. This is basically a much more precise control over how much or what type of cleaning fluid goes for just a light mess versus a much larger sticky mess in something like a kitchen. This isn't just a software change. When you actually open up the front of the station, there are now two separate detergent tanks instead of one. This was a feature that was unique to the original X9, was the inclusion of a tank for floor cleaning solution. The X9S upgrades that to two fluid tanks. And in my box, it actually came with two different refills to try out. The X9 didn't come with any. So that's the mopping story. Bigger contact area, a different roller material, harder self-cleaning, and smarter solution control. So on paper, every one of these points is the same direction. Cleaner floors with fewer passes. But for now, know this is where the X9S got the most attention. Next up, the part of every floor robot that's always been the weak spot, edges and corners. So if you already own a robot vacuum, you already know this. They're great out in the middle of an open room and bad at the edges. Most of these robots are round and your rooms aren't. And that usually leaves a strip along every baseboard that the mop or the vacuum never really touch. The X9 Pro helped this along with their TruEdge 2.0. The roller mopping unit extended outward a bit towards the edge of the robot, meaning when it detected a wall or another object, it could reach closer to that edge. And honestly, it did a pretty good job. But after a year with it, there are still spots on baseboards that I have to occasionally go back and clean by hand. That's where the X9S changes that to the new TruEdge 3.0. And there are two main changes that matter here. First, it actually extends out past the edge of the body to about 0.6 of an inch beyond the edge of the robot. And second of all, ECOVACS redesigned this as a stepless air-cushioned extension, which is a fancy way of saying it should glide right up against the wall instead of stopping short of it. Instead of going in specific increments, it most likely uses an air cylinder to press it up against the baseboard so that way you know it's actually touching. Now I know that edge cleaning isn't the most exciting feature in the world, but it's definitely one of those things that if you miss those little detail points, it makes you look down upon the robot. So having these new improvements makes a huge difference. So having a kitchen full of cabinets, this is very high on my list. And I tested these robots side by side. Same edge, same dried on messes with both different robots. I definitely saw that the X9S's improvements genuinely close that gap and make it much better. I did notice that under my baseboards in different areas, it seems much cleaner, and it has a little side brush on there, which I think is mostly just to keep it from scraping, but that's nice because it does get rid of some items on the edge of quarter rounds or the bottom of your baseboards. So all in all, I'd say these improvements have made quite a bit of a difference. Now before we get into maintenance, there are two more upgrades on the cleaning side worth calling out. Both are about raw pickup power. The first one is suction. The X9 Pro was rated at 18,000 pascals. The X9S uses what ECOVACS calls the Blast High Airflow Suction System, which is rated at 30,000 pascals, with a straight-through airflow duct that's supposed to keep that suction strong on debris and pet hair. And the second item is the roller lift. When the robot crosses from hard floor onto carpet, it lifts the mopping roller out of the way so it doesn't drag wet across your rug. The X9 Pro had this capability but could only lift to 10 millimeters, or about 4/10 of an inch. The X9S can go up to 15 millimeters, about 6/10. That extra clearance means more confidence on thicker rugs or deeper pile carpets. Both of these matter more if you have a lot of carpet or pet hair to deal with. So next up, the stuff that actually decides how much you have to maintain these robots: tangle and charging. Let's start with the main one that matters: hair tangling. If you have pets or anyone with long hair in the house, you know the routine. You have to take the robot, flip it over, pull the brush out, and cut all the wrapped hair off with scissors or a knife. And then a few weeks later, repeat the same thing. Now the original X9 Pro used their Zero Tangle 3.0 to fight this, and it did a pretty good job. It was designed to pull the hair towards the middle, where they had some extra brushes, which should force it into the cleaning receptacle that puts it into the dustbin. But the X9S moved to a completely unique way of solving this, with their Zero Tangle 4.0. This comes with a completely redesigned brush. So most brushes are supported from both ends, which sounds great, except for the fact that that's where a lot of these hair pieces get tangled up. With this new design, you've got a unique mechanism that holds it by one corner. So the same side that spins the brush is the side that holds the brush. And what this does is it allows hair to slide down the entire brush, and when it gets to the end, there's nothing for it to cling on to. So it should just fall off and go right into the channel, being sucked into the dustbin. Now this is one of the more unique features that I've seen on any of the robots that I've tested. So it's nice to see that ECOVACS is trying something new. So in practice, if that works, it's one less major chore you have to deal with. And for a lot of people, that's the single most annoying part of owning one of these robots. They also quietly fixed a few things that used to annoy me about the base station. On most other robots you see, your dustbin empties out of a flap on the back. This works pretty well, except for sometimes objects and hair can get stuck in that flap, meaning it doesn't seal properly. It also means that's one area that things can get jammed and it won't be able to self-empty. The X9S reroutes this so it actually empties out of the bottom, using a bit of gravity instead of just relying on the suction alone. Also in the base station, the lower tray, which gets pretty dirty and nasty on most of these robots, now splits into two pieces for easy cleaning. One quick note on the base, they've also redesigned the finish. Both the robot and the station now have this fabric textured plastic, almost like carbon fiber, that really go well with the chrome accents. I do like this look a lot more than the leather look from last year. And on the robot itself, the dustbin is slightly bigger. It's 0.25 liters versus 0.22 on the X9 Pro. Now none of these are headline items, but they're the kind of small design fixes that you can only appreciate after living with the old one for quite a while. And a couple of other things worth mentioning, the X9S upgrades to the newer AVI 4.0 3D navigation, which on paper should mean smarter obstacle handling and routing. Now I don't have any details on what the major changes were from 3.0 to 4.0, but I know they've been on the 3.0 platform for quite a while, so there must be some major improvements if they're going to change the entire version. Another major improvement is a quick charging mode. The X9S adds what they call Power Boost fast charging. ECOVACS claims it can put back 10% of the battery in about 3 minutes. This is all being done while the roller is being washed in the dock and the dustbin is being emptied. What this means is the robot's going to spend less time when it's in the dock, and if you're doing a larger cleaning cycle, it can hopefully get back into the game much faster. Now, of course, that boosted charge only is in certain parts of the battery, so of course it's not going to go from 90 to 100 in that fast, but probably in the 10 to 20%. So if you've got that tiny little bit of the job left after it gets low on battery, this will definitely speed things up. But the robot already has an impressively long battery life, so this is only going to really matter if you have large floors or you're running multiple jobs over and over again. All right, so we've gone through everything that's changed, so let's answer the question that actually matters. Is the X9S worth it? And who should actually upgrade? So after going through every change and weighing it against what I know about these robots, here's how I'd actually think about it. And I'll give you the straight answer for 3 different types of people. So the first one is if you already own the X9 Pro. The honest starting point here is your robot is still very good. And most of these upgrades are refinements, not revelations. The 2 that could actually justify an upgrade are the pressurized self-washing and the new bigger roller. If these solve problems that you've experienced with your robot, it might be worth the upgrade for you. Also, if your current pain point is hair tangle or weak edging, the X9S targets both of these. So I definitely see these as an improvement. But overall, if you're happy with the X9 Pro, I'd say keep it for now. Now, if you're a new buyer choosing between these 2, then this is where the price actually comes in and helps. As of right now, the list price of the X9S is $899 US, and the X9 Pro has a list price of $799. But right now it's actually selling closer to $649. Now keep that in mind because that could just be a sale and it could revert back to its listed price. But right now, that's the price difference. So in the real world, you're looking at about a $250 gap. And that's not pocket change in this category. So the question isn't, is the X9S better? It's, is it $250 better? Now I can't speak for everybody out there, but if you have a ton of hard floors in your house and you've had issues with streaking with older mops, then the self-washing and bigger roller genuinely might be a better improvement for you. So in that case, the premium price is easy to justify. If this isn't the case, then maybe the X9 Pro is still a good value for you. It might be the smarter buy, and honestly, it's still a lot of robot for the money. Now, if I do get any updated prices, I will put them in a pinned comment down below. And of course, if I see any sales, I'll put them there as well. If you don't own either yet, and you're not sure if a roller mop is really for you, then that's a bigger conversation than what I can help you decide here. But I will say that this is the direction that most of the industry is going in, and I do think that the roller mop style robots do make a major difference when it comes to cleaning floors. When we had the old flat spinning versions, it would always seem to end up leaving a lot more streaks than these new versions do. So I do think the roller mops are a massive improvement. So having all those different features like the new edge cleaning, the anti-tangle, and the larger mop definitely yield a much better robot. So the bottom line here is the X9S is clearly a more capable robot, but it really turns out how you want to utilize it and the layout of your house, whether or not it justifies that increased price point over the X9. So that's all the major changes between the X9 Pro and the X9S. Now, if you have any questions on the robots themselves, if I missed something, or you want to see something specifically tested, please let me know down in the comments below. I really do try to answer every one of the comments left on my videos. So as always, links to both robots and the current pricing are down in the description below. And those links, of course, go to help the channel, so thank you for using them. Another big thank you goes out to ECOVACS for sponsoring today's video and sending over the X9S for me to test out. If you have any questions on how I review products, I do have a transparency link down below that tells you how I deal with different styles of videos on different types of products. So as always, my promise is I tell you what I find, not what I'm told to say. Now, if you are shopping around for a new robot, I've got a whole bunch of videos. I've got an entire playlist of my ECOVACS reviews over here, including the T80, the original X9 Pro, and all the other robots. Or if you're looking at moving on from indoor robots to outdoor robots, I've got an entire playlist right over here. Thanks for getting this far, and I'll see you on the next video.